What does Abdu? Abdu is a farm town. That's the meaning ever. It has mechanization support. It has irrigation. It has 24-hour energy. It has interrelated road systems within the catchment of the Abdu. All right, and it has extension support on all the components that you require. It has farmers organization and anchor farmer. The anchor farmer is a guaranteed market for the small farmer. The anchor farmer also has a guaranteed market because co-located to Abdu are industrial parks that process your products as raw material, or those that go as offtake, either to buffer stock or to the wholesale market in Techiman or Kumasi or Accra as for the wholesale and retail market. So that's what an Abdu is. Right? Now, we have planned, there are more than 100 Abdus. Our aim is to begin with 20.
Okay.
Big ones and small ones.
Okay.
Producing the crops in the value chains were identified as very key based on criteria I told you: inflation, import dependence, price competitiveness, maize, right? Maize for feed, maize for human beings, right? Soybean for feed, soybean for
oil,
feed, for oil,
and for human beings,
for cosmetics, lecithin, emulsifiers, glycerin, because you can get glycerin not just from animals but from petroleum, but you can also get it from what do you call it, oil seeds, because they are also basically what do you call it, have polymerization and so on. And then you have rice. We import 1.8 million. We have a demand for 1.8 million tons of rice. We import 1 million tons because we can only produce 800,000 tons. So incrementally, through your Abdus, integrated with small-scale farmers, upskilled and upgraded because their on-farm practices have changed, their ability to retain water in the soil and the husbanding of the soil has improved, and so on. You get the yields that you're looking for. Instead of 4 tons per hectare, you get 7 tons per hectare, and basically you have an offtake also. You have a rice mill nearby. That there's a rice mill in Tamale now. It's operating at 10% capacity.
The Tamana.
Avinash.
Yes, there's Avinash. There's also Tamana.
10% capacity, because they don't have enough raw material.
Okay.
Why do they not have enough raw material? Because you have Thai rice all over the place, and that's really what we have to do. So when you do that, basically you're creating employment. You're creating a supply of raw materials to industry. You're creating food self-sufficiency, not only for us as human beings, but also for the poultry industry, which is a cross-value chain.
Now, talking about starting with 20, and again, when we started, we talked about this, because I want to come back and find out where are we. So the 20 that we're beginning with, for instance, when are we looking at setting up all the 20, making them functional?
Okay, so this is how we're doing it. Okay. Between now and January, we're doing the concept notes for the Abdus that are going to start, and the Wumbe. Wumbe are the industrial parks. It means progress, all right? Okay, we're doing the concept note, because you have to do the concept note so that you can basically test with the bankers and financiers whether it's financeable. So between now and January, we're doing that. Once we clear the path that is bankable, then we begin to then put together the funding arrangement based on the funding ecosystem that we've established. The funding ecosystem is very simple. GIF is the infrastructure provider. To make it happen, for you to go and invest in Abdu and be an anchor farmer, you want to be sure that the infrastructure is there.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So GIF is the infrastructure provider, and basically we're seeking from government what we call a viability gap funding, so that GIF can then, through the 3 SPVs to create, one for the water transport system and logistics, one for the Abdus, and one for the industrial parks. All right. Can basically have that viability gap so that it creates the conditions for the private sector to say, okay, that funding gap that otherwise, if it was not there, will make this unprofitable and commercial. It's there because government has plugged it, so I will invest in Abdu. I invest in the SPV to develop the infrastructure. You know, there are some companies whose business model is simply to develop infrastructure and make long-term, especially pension funds, make long-term returns, because they have to make sure that they have sufficient liquidity to pay out every year for many, many years going forward. These are especially these annuity funds.
Okay. So realistically, I mean, once you're done with
so when you do that, then you begin to go into the market to raise the capital for the different aspects of the program I mentioned, that they do the capex and so on, and the SME enterprise financing. So SME financing, we have DBG as the anchor. So through DFI loans, concessional loans, right, we're going to raise about 1 billion to 1.5 billion. We have some initial commitments on that already. Okay. So DBG then becomes the borrower and on-lends to the banks.
Okay.
And the banks through strict protocols. We don't want a situation where we lend, DBG lends, and then the usual thing happens, the bank go and do something completely different with it. They treat it as they treat every other loan, and then it doesn't reach you, the anchor farmer, because you're an agric. Okay. So the protocols are very strict and enforced, because the Bank of Ghana is supervising this aspect, because they're providing hedging of whatever foreign exchange comes to DBG as part of the on-lending.
Okay.
So that hedging costs and exchange rate loss possibility is removed. So it's not priced into what is given to you.
Okay.
Some of the regulatory requirements about collateral and so on and so forth is basically not removed entirely, but there's some measure of forbearance, so that you have a situation where the actual liability and asset on the books is not really treated as normally we treated under the prudential requirements.
Okay.
So it's more or less treated as off balance sheet.
So